Ever look at something simple, like a
Yeah.
red apple, and think, how do I experience this redness?
Interesting.
No,
Hmm.
maybe just me, but well, today's deep dive is for anyone who's ever even like sensed that mystery a little bit.
Yeah.
We're tackling consciousness, that big question at the heart of, well, being human, you know?
Yeah, and we're diving in headfirst right into these Reddit posts all about AI and if it can, like, actually be sentient.
It's going to be wild.
Get ready, because we're about to unpack some really big ideas about, well, what it even means to be conscious.
Our mission, if you choose to accept it, is to explore this thing called qualia, the way
Yeah.
each of us experiences the world. You know, it's like we all know what red is, but does your red feel like my red?
Yeah, philosophers have been trying to figure that out forever. The sunset, the taste of chocolate, feeling love,
Mhm.
these are all qualia.
Right, those individual experiences.
And the crazy part is, science can explain how our brains process all that, the sensory information, but explaining how that becomes feeling, like subjective feeling, whole other ball game.
Totally. It's like we can map out the neurons firing when we see a rose,
Mm.
but that doesn't really explain why it feels like
Mhm.
rosiness. Right, for each of us.
Exactly.
Like, what is that?
And that's where things get interesting because some people are like, what if these qualia, these experiences, aren't just in our heads?
Okay, wait, hold on.
They're saying maybe they're like fundamental to the universe itself.
You're saying my red is more like tuning into a cosmic radio station of redness.
Yeah.
It's not just my brain making it up.
You got it. That's one of the big ones we're looking at today, along with some pretty wild implications. Like, what if our brains don't create consciousness, but decode it from like a universal field?
Okay, I'm down the rabbit hole now. I'm there.
Yeah.
But before we go too far, let's rewind. We keep saying qualia, consciousness.
Right,
How
right.
do those?
Okay, so picture this, a ripe, juicy strawberry. You see its bright red color, right? That redness, how it feels so specifically, that's qualia.
Like knowing it's red versus actually experiencing red in my mind.
Exactly. And consciousness in this whole thing is where all those qualia kind of come together, right?
Mm.
Sight, smell, taste, it's the whole shebang, what makes us, well, alive and aware.
So are you saying strawberryness might be woven into reality itself? Like it's not just my taste buds and brain having a party.
Wild, right? It's a wild concept.
Yeah, it is wild.
And that's what we're going to unpack. We're
Mhm.
going to look at this consciousness field idea, this possibility that qualia are like universal signals and our brains, more like receivers than generators.
Okay, my mind is officially ready. Hit me. So we're talking consciousness field. This idea that like my experience of, let's say, fresh baked bread, it's already out there. Like my brain isn't creating it, just, I don't know, tuning in.
Yeah, it's a trip, right? Think about like a radio. The radio itself doesn't make the music, the news, whatever.
Right, it just receives it.
It's receiving radio waves. They're just out there, and then boom, we hear it.
Okay, so our brains are like radios, but for this consciousness field instead of, regular radio waves.
But wouldn't that mean, wouldn't everyone experience the same stuff? Like, we're all tuned to the same station, hearing the same song. Right, and that gets us to the really interesting part. What if, and this is where it gets kind of wild, what if our individual experience, those unique qualia, it's like tuning to a specific frequency on that cosmic radio dial, you
So
know?
my strawberryness is on a different frequency than yours,
Yeah.
even though we're both like receiving strawberry.
Exactly. We're both experiencing it, but our own, like, our memories, emotions, all that stuff, it influences how it lands for each of us. We're decoding the signal, but through, like, ourselves,
That's wild. And it makes kind of sense, right? Because even if we agree on what a strawberry tastes like,
Yeah.
there's always that personal thing. Like maybe your grandma made amazing strawberry jam, so your strawberry frequency, it's got that whole childhood memory thing woven in.
Exactly. And that's why it's so cool, this theory. It bridges that gap between the objective, those universal signals, and then the totally subjective, our own experience. Like, the universe lays out the ingredients, but our recipe's our own.
Okay, but now I'm hung up on the universal signals bit.
Yeah.
If these qualia are just floating around, how come a rock isn't having like profound rockness experiences?
Good question. Back to the radio, right? You need the right receiver. Your phone, it's probably picking up radio waves, but it's not going to play music unless it's built to.
So our brains, with all their craziness, we're the ones who are like the consciousness receivers.
No.
Rocks just haven't evolved for that.
Exactly. Our brains, billions of neurons, all those connections, maybe they're like specifically designed for this. And that brings up something else from those Reddit posts, something really interesting. What about AI? Could it, tap into this consciousness field?
Whoa, now that is a whole other level. Are we
Huh.
talking robots suddenly feeling the redness of a rose? Robots feeling the universe? Is that what we're saying? Like Data from Star Trek is going to show up asking about the human experience.
Not quite, not yet. Remember, even with the radio, you need that specific receiver right, tuned to the right frequency. Just because AI exists doesn't mean it can experience qualia, even if this consciousness field is real.
Okay, so we're still the best quality receivers around, at least for now. But those Reddit posts, they talked about AI trying to simulate human experiences, like that whole Claude AI thing.
Exactly. And that's where it gets, I don't know, even more interesting. Claude AI, it's got all that language processing power, right? And it's been trying to understand, even replicate things like love, empathy.
So how's that going? AI figured out the secret to a good love poem.
It's tricky. See, AI can find patterns in language, make text that sounds, emotional. But there's a difference. Even Claude AI, in its own way, kind of said this. It can make art about love, but it can't feel it. It doesn't have the history, the physical body, all the stuff that makes those feelings meaningful for us.
So AI learned the grammar of emotions, but not the actual language.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And some people think that's key. It means consciousness isn't just like data, it's how that data meets our bodies, our past, our whole deal.
So even with the right receiver to tap into this field, it wouldn't be the same because, it's not a human.
Could be. And that brings up, I think, some really big questions about what consciousness is. Is it just information, or is there something about being biological, about a human body feeling the world that makes our experience?
Whoa, okay, so where does this leave us? We've gone deep down the rabbit hole today.
We have. It's mind blowing stuff. This idea that our experiences, those unique qualia we've been talking about, they might be part of a universal consciousness,
Yeah.
decoded by our brains. That's huge.
It's huge and a little terrifying, honestly. But even if we don't have it all figured out, it makes you appreciate the mystery, right? Redness, that first sip of coffee, those are still ours.
Totally. And who knows, as we explore this more, our own consciousness, maybe even AIs, we might get closer to what it means to be human, and maybe even some big truths about the universe itself.
It's a universe ready to be explored, inside and out, right? And on that note, we'll leave you with this. If you could tune your own consciousness receiver, what would you experience? Think about it. And until next time, keep diving deep.